Guten Tag and welcome to PA Dutch 101. This is video 34 in our series and is a grammar-based video covering the topic of two-way prepositions. We don't really have a Dutch term for that, so I use the English again, two-way prepositions. If you have not seen the previous videos, I would advise you to watch those before jumping into this lesson, especially the videos covering the nominative case, the accusative case, and the dative case. Those will be very helpful in understanding two-way prepositions. So, as I just mentioned in previous videos, we have addressed that there are three cases in Pennsylvania Dutch. There's the nominative, which addresses the subject of a sentence. That's video number 12. There's the accusative case, which addresses the direct object in a sentence. That's video 17. And finally, there's the dative case, which addresses the indirect object of a sentence, and that's video 25. So please, if you have not watched those videos, watch those first, then come back to this one. What we're going to be talking about today with these two-way prepositions deals directly with dative and accusative. So we need to have a good handle on dative and accusative in order to know how to understand and do two-way prepositions. Also, in both of the accusative and the dative case videos, we also covered the fact that there are a set of prepositions that are specifically accusative, and there's a set that are specifically dative. Okay? And again, those are covered in those previous videos. Now, on top of our accusative prepositions and our dative prepositions, there are a set of prepositions which are called two-way prepositions. And the reason they're called two-way is because they can either be accusative or dative. They are not locked into one category. They can fall into both, depending on the sentence or the situation. Okay? And that is what we have to really hone in on. What situation are we dealing with? If they are dative, here's the rule. So if you're dealing with one of these two-way prepositions, you're either going to be dative or accusative. You have to figure out which one. And here's the rule. It is dative when used with a verb that does not indicate motion. That's the key. Does not indicate motion into or out of a place. You need to ask yourself the question, where? If it's describing location, there's no motion, then the preposition becomes dative. On the other hand, when one of these prepositions is used with a verb that does indicate motion toward a specific point or direction, ask you the question, where to, or wo anna, then it's accusative. So let's boil this down. When you're dealing with one of these two-way prepositions, if there's motion, accusative. No motion, dative. And that doesn't change. That's the rule. Okay? Here's a list of the two-way prepositions. I'll give you the preposition plus the translation of the meaning in English, excuse me. Please note that a lot of these prepositions have more than one meaning, okay? For example, an can mean at a location, but it can also mean on vertical surfaces. So like on a wall, vertical, not horizontal. This is important. There's a different word for horizontal. Geschwächig, geschwächig, geschwächig. That is a very tough word to say. And it means between. Between. Hinnig, 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 which means behind. In, which means in or into. Iwa, which means over, above, past, after, and across. That's a tricky one. That can be used 5 different ways in English, 5 different meanings in English. Neighbor or nebig neighbor or navy, both, doesn't matter, mean next to or near. Oof. Oof is on, and here is horizontal surfaces, so like on a table or on the chair. On a flat horizontal surface, we use oof. If it's a vertical surface like a wall, then we use an. It also can mean upon. Unig, under, unig, unig. And var, 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 which means before, in front of, ago, or of, like in the instance of telling time, okay? Which we did cover that word before. Okay. Now, some of these can make contractions, and we covered this in our dative video and our accusative video before. Accusative and dative prepositions can be formed contractions depending on the situation. Here are the dative ones. If you're using an, and the next word is dem, which would be like a masculine or a neuter noun, then you can make the word am. An plus me, which would be your neuter form, would be amme. Amme. Note, that's pretty different. In plus dame, im. Im. In plus me, imme. Imme. And far plus dem, farm. Farm. You don't have to use the contractions. It's perfectly okay to say an, dem, whatever. But I'm also letting you know that you can say So either one works. Now, we can also form accusative contractions as well. There are situations. Like if you're using an and the next word is neuter, so we have s, you can say ans. Ans. If you have hinnig plus a neuter noun, as, you can say hinnigs. 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 In plus s, ins. Ins. Iwa plus s, iwas. Iwas. Navig plus s, navigs. Navigs. Uf plus s, ufs. Ufs. Unig plus s, unigs. Unigs. And far plus s, fars. Fars. Now, just like in the dative, you don't have to use the contractions, but you can, okay? And you will probably see them in writing, so I want you to be aware of what they are, okay? Now, things to remember about two-way prepositions. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think two-way prepositions are one of the most difficult concepts to really master because there's a lot going on and there's a lot to think about on top of it. And when we practice here in a little bit, you'll see what I mean. There's a process you have to go through in order to get to the answer. So, some things to remember. Remember, first and foremost, once you've decided which preposition you're going to be using, depending on the situation, the very next thing you have to ask yourself is, okay, dative or accusative? And just ask yourself this question. Is there motion? That usually will solve your problem. Motion, accusative. No motion, dative. So ask yourself that question first. Again, if there is motion, accusative. No motion, dative. After you do that, then you have to determine the gender of the noun associated with the two-way preposition. And 99 times out of 100, that noun is going to be right after the preposition. It'll be preposition, noun. So, you got to know the gender, because once you know the gender, then you have to plug in the correct accusative form or dative form. Okay? Provide the correct article, whether it's the definite article or the indefinite article. You got to know which case you're using so that you can get the correct article. Okay? Here are some example sentences, and I'll walk through them and explain them to you why they are what they are. So, for example, here we're using the two-way preposition an, which means on or at. So, woont an ek. Woont an ek. So we knew we were going to use this preposition. The next thing we had to ask ourselves, is there motion or no motion? He lives on the corner. There's no motion there. So, dative. There's question number 1 answered. What do we do next? We look at the noun. In this case, it's ek. We have to know the gender of the noun ek, which, if you didn't know, you can't guess. You have to go to a dictionary and look it up. If you guess, there's a possibility you're going to guess the right gender, but don't forget there's 3 genders, so your probability is 1 in 3. Don't guess. Don't be lazy. Go get the dictionary, look the word up, and then say to yourself, okay, ek is neuter, s-ek, 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 and say that a couple times in your head so that the next time you don't have to look that word up. Alright? It happens to be neuter. Neuter, no motion. Now, when you're working with these, you probably should have your chart of articles in front of you as well, your definite and your indefinite article chart, so that you can quickly reference those to look them up. So you want dative, neuter, m. An em ek. Okay? Now I took that same sentence, but I changed it just a little bit. I changed our verb. This time I said, geht an es ek. He's going around or at the corner. Now, gate, we know that's motion. So that automatically changes from dative to accusative because there's motion. And because of that, notice, our article has changed. Ek is still neuter. That hasn't changed. The only thing it changes, we've gone from dative in this sentence because there's no motion to accusative in this sentence because there is motion. Geht an es ek. Now, we could have said ans, an plus s, but I chose to write it out to show you exactly what we're doing here. Okay? I hope you can understand the difference between these 2 sentences, because it is the whole difference between dative and accusative. No motion as opposed to motion. Here's another example. Die Maschine steht hinnig im Haus. Die Maschine steht hinnig im Haus. Now, here we have the car is parked or is standing behind, so we had the word behind, that's our two-way preposition, and our noun this time is house. Now, ask you the first question, is there motion? It's parked, it's standing, there's no motion there. Dative. Then we have to figure out the gender of house. Hopefully you have it memorized. If not, again, you gotta go look it up. For time purposes, I'm telling you, it's neuter, it's house. So, dative neuter, you look up your chart, hinnig im Haus. Hinnig im Haus. Die Maschine steht hinnig im Haus. Now I'm going to take that same sentence, I'm going to change a verb. Die Maschine fährt hinnig es Haus. Die Maschine fährt hinnig es Haus. Now notice here, the car is driving or going behind the house. Now there's motion. So motion takes this two-way preposition and makes it accusative. House is neuter, that hasn't changed. So we get the accusative form, s. And again, you could combine this and say hinnigs, but I wanted to break it apart so you can see what we're doing here. Hopefully, again, you can see the difference between these two sentences. One has motion, this one, and this one does not. Hence, dative versus accusative. Here's another one. Es Kind ist unter dem Tisch. Es Kind ist unter dem Tisch. The child, the kid, the child is under the table. Again, the child is under the table. So you got to say to yourself, there's no motion there. He's just under it. Now, if it said he's running under the table, well, that'd be different. But it's not. The sentence is saying that he's under the table. So that's location, no motion. So dative. You'd have to look up dish if you didn't know. Again, dish is a masculine noun, so masculine dative, unter dem Tisch. Okay. Take that same sentence, change the verb though. Es Kind läuft unter der Tisch. Läuft is to run or to walk, so the kid is walking or running underneath the table. Now there's motion, so it goes from dative to accusative, unter der Tisch. Okay. As you can see, this is a multi-step process, and you can't skip any of the steps. Try and do them in the order that I just walked through those sentences. First off, figure out what two-way preposition you need. Secondly, ask yourself motion or no motion. So determine the preposition, then determine the case, then figure out gender to get to the final answer. Okay? Great, bis evening. Let's do a little practice. Okay? I've given you sentences. I've already given you the two-way preposition. I want the form of the word that I have in parentheses, and also to save time, I've given you the gender of some of the nouns that we're dealing with. Here's our first sentence. Die Schulsack liegt auf, and I want to say the, oops, bump the board again, Bett. The school bag is laying on or upon the bed. Again, bed is a horizontal surface, so we have to use auf instead of on. Okay? Don't forget that. There are differences. Now, I'm telling you that Bett is neuter. Ask yourself, is there motion? Well, the school bag is laying on the table. There's no motion there, so okay. Check off number one, dative. Question number two, what's the gender of bed? Oh, it's neuter. Check off question number two. Alright? So, what is the dative neuter form of the? If you check your chart, you will see that it's die Schulsack liegt auf em Bett. Die Schulsack liegt auf em Bett. Okay? Here's another one. This time, again, we want the. Our preposition this time is über, across, or over. And our word this time is Wasserloch, which is the word for a pond. And I'm telling you that Wasserloch is neuter. Okay, so, wir schwimmen über the Wasserloch. Ask yourself question number one. Is there motion? We are swimming across the pond. There's motion there. So, question number one is answered by accusative. Gender, telling you it's neuter. So look in your chart again. What is the neuter accusative form of the? And you get wir schwimmen über es Wasserloch. Wir schwimmen über es Wasserloch. And again, you could have written this as it was. Just combining these two, but again, I broke it apart. It doesn't matter. Right? Here's another one. Die Uhr ist an. This time we're using an. And our word we're looking for is the. Wand is our noun. Wand is the word for wall. Now here we're using an instead of auf because we're saying the clock is on the wall. The wall is a vertical surface, so we have to use an as opposed to auf. Okay? Now, motion or no motion, the clock is on the wall. There's no motion there, it's on the wall. Okay, so dative. Second question, gender. Well, I'm telling you that Wand is feminine. So, what is the dative feminine form of the? You check your chart and you get die Uhr ist an der Wand. Die Uhr ist an der Wand. Okay? One more. So, this time we're using the preposition hinnig, which means behind. And we're using the noun Haus again, and I told you that it's neuter, we want the word the. Der Bill geht hinnig, whatever, Haus. Right away you see the verb gate. You shouldn't even have to ask question number one anymore because we know that gehe is a motion verb. End of story. Accusative. Bill is going behind the house. He's walking behind the house. Motion, we want the form of the, and we want neuter. So, accusative, neuter, for the, you check your chart. Der Bill geht hinnig es Haus. Der Bill geht hinnig es Haus. Okay? When you get done with this video, you might say to yourself, your mind might feel like it's spinning because there's so much, and maybe I did go a little too quickly through those practice sentences. My advice to you would be first, number one, memorize the meanings of the two-way prepositions. Get those memorized, okay? Then, start practicing with them. Make sample sentences. The book is laying on the table. The dog is jumping over the chair. Come up with sentences. Make some motion, make some non-motion, okay? And then once you're practicing these, start figuring out, okay, motion, no motion, what's the gender of the noun I'm dealing with, and am I picking the correct preposition? These are difficult. I'm not going to pull any punches here. I think probably they're in the top 5 most difficult grammar lessons that we're going to cover in these video series, because there's so much going on, and you really have to understand a lot previous to learning about these. You got to have a good handle on your articles for both accusative and dative. You have to have a good grasp on vocabulary so that when you look at these verbs, you can tell, is there or isn't there motion involved? And then you have to plug all that together to get a final answer, on top of also choosing the correct preposition. So this is difficult, but it's not impossible. Again, it takes practice. All right. So one other thing maybe you could practice is have people that you know come up with sentences in English using these words, and then you translate them. I'm not a huge fan of direct translation, but in situations like this where you might not have anybody that can really help you with Pennsylvania Dutch, you kind of have to rely on that stuff. And let me also throw this out there. I've been getting a lot of emails to my address here, busterpa@yahoo.com, from people all over the place watching these videos and sending me questions. That's great. If you have questions, if you have complaints, if you have concerns, or if you have ideas for future videos, don't hesitate. Please email me. I love hearing from people. Just yesterday, I opened an email from a guy in South Africa who is using my videos to learn Pennsylvania Dutch. Blew my mind. South Africa. So I'd like to send out a special goedendag to Mr. Wise down there in South Africa. Thanks for watching. Keep watching, practicing. If people in South Africa are out there learning Pennsylvania Dutch, then what's holding you back? And what's holding other people in your family back? Nothing. You gotta tell them. Now's the time. Let's save this dialect. Let's preserve it. Let's keep it alive for future generations. Okay? We'll gladly paint new hex signs on barns, and we'll gladly keep making our food and our traditions, but our language is one of the most vital aspects of our culture and of our heritage. So spread the gospel, get out there, tell people about the website, padutch101.wikispaces.com, tell them about the videos, and say, let's learn Pennsylvania Dutch together, because two heads working at it are much better than one, and it's a much more enjoyable experience. So get out there, find a Pennsylvania Dutch buddy if you can, email me. I'll answer questions as well. If you want to run sample sentences by me, I'll gladly do that. I won't think twice, okay? And I'll always answer any email I get. So, bis die nächste video. Sorry about advancing the screen like that. You have the information. Bis die nächste video. Mach's gut und schwätz Deutsch.